Not that color.
Hi.
Actually, there's a couple more. One more in the back and then a couple more here.
You need more chairs. You need more, we'll get them.
Good.
I am, Debbie.
Oh, do you want a bite?
What you got?
Debbie, are you gonna do this again?
Is this awful?
If it smells, you're in trouble, kid.
She's back there eating.
She used to do this, she used to get here. I used to go with her on the bus.
I'll take you up
And
on
you would
that,
have
but I
this
don't
stupid
have
smell of food. I'm going, God,
Well, I thought we'd be out on the, like, the floor and then he's sitting at a desk.
Okay, so we're going to the smaller room.
Yeah, they wouldn't even know I was part of the class.
They're bitching, I'm not coming in. Is anyone bitching?
honey, I've always been
Okay, they're not gonna come in. They're starting bitching about it. I heard that comment.
Bring your own chair.
Yes. Let me get the guy to cut them all out. Is everybody in that's in? God, we're small, huh?
Come on,
That's
just
okay,
sit
it's
down.
cozy. We like
For yourself, Vin.
I'm just afraid we're gonna have like 3 more people walk in and
They
we're
will,
not.
they can hang inside the door. Let's do it.
Do we wanna slide that TV out now and just take it now, move it now?
Let's do that now, just in case.
Let's do it now, just in case.
Okay, hold on.
That's my puppy.
Which side of me is this coming through?
Move all this stuff up.
Intimate.
This is my visual side coming through.
Turn the lights off.
You got this situation. This sucks.
Let's move over there.
There's 2 people.
You should have seen it before. That was like closer. The first session.
Yeah, great.
Everybody was laughing.
No, you got a back row after all, Steve.
Well, I had a pen on
You
there.
get
I
wallflower
got a
today.
pen.
Shake it on here like this.
Who got the pen? Who got her
Paid for the
pen?
nosebleed seat.
Was it that? No, it was just, I had a blue.
Nosebleed?
Nosebleeds.
Way up from the top.
Does that make any more room?
Nosebleeds
Hey,
are so
Don?
high up.
Can you slide over a little bit?
Sure,
Thanks, George. I know you prefer to be next to me.
Yes, he sure
I can
can.
probably scoot over a little bit. You
Stay there.
can scoot over a little more. If I scoot over a little more, if I get my big body out of the way. Oh my God,
Can you
baby.
sit next to Don?
Well, I will. I just
Grace
I'm
is
looking
not
for
one of my
pen and I
things.
lost it there.
I used to pack groceries.
There.
I have big feet and
big.
well, big.
Show me how.
Okay, now you may cozy in.
Okay, Ron, are you coming in here?
Okay, is that your pen?
No, I stole it.
glass too.
Millie? Millie?
Vince stole it.
Millie?
People on that wall are too relaxed. So
You like
Hypnotize her not to do that.
Hey,
okay,
and have no control.
I make him up with my cup.
Oh, is that your pen?
I should have looked in his hand.
He ain't even had it an hour and it's missing.
Come on, you can get more in.
That's because you
Can we
can't down.
hypnotize him into quit taking our pens?
Actually, that's what
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about bad hair day.
hurry up, Ron. You're holding
Yeah,
up the
hair day. I
class.
always have that.
Relax, why don't
It's
you?
fun. Yeah, relax, darling.
We're gonna hypnotize Vince not to pick up pen.
Turn the air conditioner
Tim the lot.
That'd be a good idea.
We should take a long time just
There
to
you
sit
go.
down.
Oh, the
Go
electricity.
do we need?
Oh, you're doing.
That's okay. Steve was coming in and he requisitioned a chair for the
You
back.
do this every time. You're all the way just locked into a corner and she has nothing to write with.
Oh, well, I can keep him away. Got a stick?
He's used to that.
Okay, today is habit modification and self-hypnosis. We're going to start with, take off my jacket again, do you mind? Because it's almost Christmas or what? You know, you can't tell with these suspenders, but my tie's a Christmas tie too. It's got little candy canes on it. My wife said, if you're going to wear that tie, you have to wear those suspenders and vice versa. I've got another Christmas tie I wore it last time, but nobody even seemed to notice.
I did. Santa Claus.
Yeah, Santa Claus. But I couldn't wear it with these suspenders. It made me feel good because I like these suspenders. Well, today's lecture is on habit modification. Is that what we titled it when we passed out that little flyer? Was a habit modification? Is that what we said?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what we're going to do. So I hope we got it right. Habit modification is something that's, I think, important to everybody. You know, everything we do that is not consciously thought out is a subject of habit. And we are creatures of habit. Everything we do is habit. The way we drive, the way we eat, the way we sleep even is habit. For instance, my wife says, why don't you sleep on your back, you'll get less wrinkles in your face. She's looking out for me.
Is that
But I sleep on my face and I get these wrinkles, you know, from scrunching up my face. And that's just the way it's going to be. I'm just going to be wrinkled face. That's all there is to it. Because I like to sleep on my face. Face down. Maybe it's from years of face down in the gutter. I don't know. Anyway, we are creatures of habit. Now, some of us have habits that we'd like to change. Some of us have habits that we would like to obtain that we don't have yet. And some things that we do each day are consciously thought out, and they become a real problem for us later on, because then they become a habit that's a real problem. How many people in here smoke cigarettes? Okay, we got one. You quit for a long time, didn't you, Steve? What happened to you?
What happens, Steve?
Got a few good fingers.
We wouldn't let anybody smoke in our office, so they had to go outside, and it was snowing, and that's when he quit smoking. We didn't let him go out in the snow.
You made it sound so gross, I had to quit.
Frostbite.
I did. I made it pretty disgusting. Okay, and you smoke. And you smoke. Okay. These are only habits that everyone notices. Oh,
she's not.
He's already raising her hand for a break.
I need a cigarette right now.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. No, I go several hours without cigarettes.
Good deal. Because we're going to be in here several hours.
Not if I don't want to be there.
Okay. But it doesn't matter what your habit is. Cigarette smoking is just one of those. In fact, as I tell people that I help quit smoking, that cigarette smoking is not an addiction. It is not a physical addiction, contrary to what the Surgeon General said. It's just a habit. It's something that we do just like anything else. When you're driving down the road, have you ever driven down the road and turned left at a place that you normally turn left at, but I should have turned right, or I should have gone straight? That's habit. Just pure and simple. We all do things out of habit. How many of you eat with your left hand? Let's ask that question. No left-handed people in here. Boy, in this class group, that's pretty hard to imagine. Steve, which one do you use? He's trying to figure it out now.
Use both.
At the same time. Huh?
That's using
Okay. Part of the reason we do it is because we favor that side, but part of it is out of habit too. I could eat with my left hand if I wanted, and I could hit my mouth and do okay most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. But I do it with my right hand simply because it's the habit I've gotten into. I think that if my parents had trained me to be left-handed, I could have been left-handed. I am ambidextrous in some things. There are some things I do equally well with my left hand as I do with my right hand, but not very often. Is anyone in here ambidextrous? Can they do things like write their name and take notes with both hands? We're all right-handed people. Okay, then I don't have to tell you the joke about left-handed people.
What happens if you write with your left hand sometimes? And you get so mad at yourself because it's like,
I want to be like my brother.
have you know anyone that's ever written with their other hand and have notes that you can hardly read because you've written them with your left hand?
Yeah, me, when I had my arm taped up one time, my right arm,
That's about it.
Why did you do that?
in college.
Yeah, I'll do that periodically, and I'll say to myself something like, it's like,
Oh,
I have
why
to
did
read
you
that-
do it?
Well, I probably did it because something was happening here and on the telephone, and
Remember, he was kinesthetic and he can do a lot of things at once.
That was fun,
He was
okay.
probably doing something with his right hand, probably writing something else.
If you look through my daytimer, you'll find invariably pages where I've written with my left hand. And
you
I'll sit
can't
there
read
and
them?
say, in some cases, if I like a phone number, like I will write down a phone number and then I can kind of make the name, but I might screw up on just hard enough to tell if it's a 7 or a 1
Or a
4
0 or a
a
6.
6.
That's either hand.
Well, that's the way I am with my right hand. My left hand is totally unintelligible, but with my right hand.
Oh.
So,
I
I have no...
guess I'm looking for some special help.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it.
No,
Okay, so the creatures of habit that we are, some of us would like to change some of those habits. Does anyone in here have a habit they would like to change? Now, you can raise your hand, even though I may not change it for you.
We all do.
Okay.
I'm perfect.
There is one in there.
Me too.
Yeah.
I know you.
Okay, well, I'm pretty much the way I like to be too. As a matter of fact, I believe
She's got
that
a
we're,
butterfly habit.
Yeah.
I believe that we are most of us are pretty much the way we like to be. If we weren't, we'd change. Because our our subconscious is the one that governs those habits. Now the problem is that sometimes our conscious mind would like to do things that our subconscious does not want to do. That's what happens when we have stress in our lives. We have things like, for instance, you go home and you kick the dog. Well, you don't want to do that, but you've had a rotten day and you kick the dog. Well, that's a bad habit to get into because pretty soon you're kicking the dog every day. If you'd like to change that habit to kicking the cat instead of the dog or whatever, then we can change that habit, and that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to learn how to change habits. Very simply put, habits are a product of the subconscious mind, and so if we can convince the subconscious mind to do something, then it can be done. However, the problem becomes very, very important to realize that the subconscious mind can't just be convinced of something. We can't use logic and reasoning with the subconscious mind because it's very strong and very obstinate. And in fact, the subconscious mind doesn't believe in logic. It only believes in the past. It only believes in the things that it's been taught time after time after time after time. And when we walked on fire at this first seminar, the very first time I went, I said to myself, I can do this because I've seen someone else do that. Consciously, I believed it. But when I got up to the line and there were those hot coals, I mean, we're talking 2,000 degrees plus, and I could feel the heat coming off those hot coals, my conscious mind said, I can't do this. And the reason it was saying that was because my subconscious had not been convinced, very simply. And if my subconscious wasn't convinced, then there was nothing I could do about it. I would have burned my feet off on those hot coals. But what happens then is I have to convince the subconscious to that something is possible. You have a
Does the
question.
subconscious control the lack of damage to your feet?
It can do, yes. And that's exactly what happens when you walk on fire, or hot coals. I always say walk on fire because it's one syllable, but hot coals is two, and it's easier to say. Yes, it does. In fact, what it does is, scientists have tried to examine what exactly the body goes through and determine exactly what happens. And they don't know for sure. Some scientists have said, well, there's this layer of hot air that you really walk on. You're not really walking on the coals. And others say, well, it's really a layer of moisture that's emanated from your feet. And others say, well, the coals aren't really hot enough. I mean, there are 1,000 different theories, and none of them can be proven, except that the one thing that we learn in fire walking is that your body will do whatever it has to do to protect itself, but only if it's told to, and only if your mind is in the proper state to take you there. You have a question?
And what about these guys that do the glass bit? They walk
Same
on
thing.
glass, same thing?
Same thing, except see, the theory then has changed, because it can't be air between you, it can't be water, that's not going to protect you from glass. I've never walked on glass, but it's the same basic principle. You have to convince your subconscious mind, somewhere deep down inside, your subconscious mind is saying, it can't be done, and then it's saying suddenly, it can be done. And your subconscious knows how to do it. I don't know how to do it consciously, but my subconscious does. And I've done it time after time after time. In fact, Steve, you haven't been in my backyard lately, but in my backyard I set up a fire walk, a little trail. And I think I told you folks when I first walked on fire at home, what happened to me. Did I tell you that? How I actually walked 4 times and didn't burn myself, and then the 5th time, I burned myself. I got 2 little blisters, one on each foot. I guess that was my subconscious saying, okay, you really did do it, and this is the proof. Okay, we'll let you burn yourself, just a little bit. Okay, and so I've walked on fire lots of times. But that's not what we're about here today. We're not here to learn about fire walking or anything else. What we're learning now is how to convince the subconscious mind that something is possible, because it's like anything else in life, you can't do it unless you believe you can do it. But if you believe that you can do it, it can be done. There are a lot of schools out there today that will teach you anything is possible if you believe that you can do it. And these are theories, and not just theories, but things that have been proven time after time after time. So what we're going to do is teach you how to convince your subconscious mind. The first way that we've heard about convincing your subconscious mind is through affirmations. Now, I think everybody's heard of affirmations. Anybody out there who has not heard of affirmations? Okay. Everybody knows what an affirmation is. Do any of you have affirmations taped to your mirror in the bathroom, besides me? Nobody does?
Exactly there.
Okay, you have some, but
Well, yeah.
but they're not in, okay. The reason I use the bathroom is because I look at the mirror in the bathroom every day. But you may have a different place. Where's yours?
All over back there. Roll back down. Do it.
Okay. My mother, for years, I mean, as long as I can remember, and she weighs probably, well, she's 5'2", she weighs probably 160 pounds, kind of roundish. And she always kept saying, I'm gonna get down to 140, and when I get down to 140, what are you gonna give me? And I'd say, I'll buy you a chicken dinner, because she loves fried chicken. And this was when I was a little kid, you know, growing up, I had paper out, and that was gonna be a lot of money, but hey, I would do it if she got down to 140. But even with those signs on the refrigerator, thin is beautiful, and all those other things that she had there for years, she never got down to 140. I knew my money was safe. I didn't have to spend it. And why? Because her subconscious was not convinced. Now, she had the affirmation. She even had them in the bathroom. She had them all over the kitchen. You know, why do affirmations sometimes not work? Anybody have a theory?
Subconscious.
Because you don't believe it. And why don't you believe it?
Because you don't want to.
Because you don't want to. That's a good reason.
Subconscious tells you that.
That's right.
You don't
Okay.
make a habit of reading them and thinking about them.
You always,
Even if you do that, though, she saw them every day with her mind. She saw them. I'll tell you why. Because her emotions were not tied up in that. Affirmations are absolutely no good whatsoever unless your emotions are tied up in those affirmations. What can you do with your emotions? Can you? What can you do to? What can you do to change your emotions? Okay, sure. I don't want you to fall off.
Easier to finish.
What can you do then to get your emotions in sync with your affirmations? Or can you do that? Can you change your own emotions?
Yeah.
Okay, you say yes. How do you change your emotions? Consciously change your emotions.
We're talking like eating thing or?
Anything. If you want to change an emotion, how do you change it?
You stop
Well,
and
I
look.
do some
repetition.
breathing and.
Okay, that's one way. Okay. Steve, you had a comment?
Just get excited about what you're gonna do.
Okay. Roll, you had a comment.
You look back at, you analyze it, what you've just been through. If it was something that was, you know, a car wreck or something like that, you stop and you say, why did it happen?
Okay.
Tie it to something that you're emotional about.
There you go. There you go. When you're, if you were an actor and you were down in North Hollywood trying to get a job and you were auditioning for a part and they said, act happy, what you've been taught as an actor or as an actress is that you need to go back somewhere in your history and say, what have I done that was really happy, that made me really happy, and think about that. And remember concentration last week? Concentrate on that event so that that emotion comes into play today. Okay? Now there are three things that you can do. You can hear the sounds, you can see the things you saw, and you can feel the things you felt. And then the emotions will come back into play. Now, if you don't do those three things, then the emotions will not be as conclusive. You may have some part of the emotion, or you may be partly there, but not completely there. But you need to conjure up those emotions somehow. So, if you want to quit smoking, for instance, or if you want to get up early in the morning and you have a hard time, anybody here have a hard time when the alarm goes off? When the alarm goes off in the morning, I have a tough time. What do? I have a snooze alarm. That was the worst thing that God ever gave man, was the snooze alarm. Because I can hit that thing until the electricity goes off.
Till lunchtime.
That's right. And so what happens then is I have this problem of getting up in the morning, so I had to do something about getting myself up in the morning. And this is the easiest one I'm going to teach you how to do today. Think of something that makes you happy and excited to do, and then we're going to teach you how to anchor that feeling or that emotion into your frame, into your physiology. Now when I say anchor, what that means is three things. You have to catch the emotion, then you have to hear the sounds, and you have to see the picture. Okay. Now, what do you do when you anchor an emotion? See or catch the feelings. How do you get the feelings of an emotion? You go back and you do the other two. You see the picture. What is something that, what's your name back in the back? I'm sorry.
Debbie.
Debbie. What is something that made you extremely happy, so happy you could hardly stand yourself in the last year, say?
Well, I went on a river rafting trip.
Oh, great. Okay. How many of you have been down the river?
More than one.
Up the river, down the river.
Up the river, down the river.
More than one.
And how many of you went on
On
the
a
boat?
paddle.
I think we've all been out of the boat that have been down the
Yeah.
river, haven't we?
Quite a few
Do
times.
they call you river rats where you went?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, once you've dunked, you're a river rat.
but then we ended up being the Rockettes because we hit every rock in the river.
Blockheads.
But that was an experience that you would get up early in the morning to do, wouldn't you? Okay. Now what you need to do is each one of you, in your mind, you need to see a picture of whatever it was, like her raft trip. Now, does each one of you have some picture or some experience like that? Is there anyone out there who does not have one? Something that happened in the last year that was emotionally invigorating. Something that really got you going.
You
On a
have
big
to-
tuna.
You say the last year?
I'm saying approximately a year. Yeah.
He's had a bad year.
First time he goes.
Ah, he caught a big tuna.
Oh, yeah, no, I just wanted to know how far.
Like
There-
Bush,
there-
he caught stuff.
The only reason I say a year is because it's stuff you remember
Jeff and Barbara
fully.
quit.
He's got a lot to talk about.
Counting our blessings.
We're all happy now, so think of the picture we're having right now, if you haven't got another one. Or make up something else. If you don't have one, make something up. Your mind is very, very creative. In fact, when I think about Shirley MacLaine's book, I think, you know, she's just as clever as the rest of us. The only difference is she writes it down. Okay? So think about some picture of some happy moment and start feeling that emotion. Each one of you, what I would like you to do now is you don't even need to close your eyes. Just think about what happened on that day that created that emotion. Do you have it in your mind? Do you? Okay. Does everyone have that? Now, is this an emotion? Is this a time, an experience that just made you want to stand up and shout? At least? Go ahead.
Yeah.
These guys all know me.
She's
New
going to,
Beach,
huh?
Tahiti.
Is that where you were?
No, I've been
That's
other
what- that's where
places.
she'd
That's
like
what
to
I'd
be.
like to be.
Oh.
An update on the
Okay.
other fantasy.
Does everybody have that picture? Is anybody having a hard time sitting in their seat? Okay, what I want you to do then is I want you to help this picture along just a little bit. Is this a moving picture or is this just a still picture? It ought to be moving. It ought to be like what I call sub-videos, because these are videos that you can play in your mind, frontwards, backwards. You can alter the facts. You can do anything you want with them because they're sub-videos. You're your own editor. You can edit in and edit out anytime you want. So edit in some more happiness. Edit in some more of whatever it is that's getting you excited. Is there something in there that you can edit in? Another picture of maybe some other person? Okay, here's something else that you need to do with the picture. You need to brighten it up a little bit. Because when you're sad, your pictures in your mind are rather dark. So go ahead and now what I want you to do is, it's going to be a little bit easier if you close your eyes. So go ahead and each one of you just close your eyes now and see this picture in your mind and see how bright this picture is. And tell me if the picture is bright or if it's dark. Close your eyes and do this one. Does anybody have a dark picture or one that they can hardly figure out what's going on? Anybody have a really bright picture? Raise your hand. Okay. Those of you whose pictures are not quite as bright as they'd like them, or are not as happy, brighten them up. Turn up the lights, as though you were turning on the sun in your picture. Does that help a little bit? Now do one more thing. It's probably out of focus a little bit. So focus it up, just like when you focus a camera. Turn the lens just a little bit so that it's more in focus, and it's a clear, vivid picture. Okay, now do another thing. Make sure that you see all of the colors that were there present at that experience. You see the picture? All of the colors, are there bright reds? Are there bright greens? Is there anything fluorescent in the picture? Is there anything that you can't see the color on? Then make up the color. Put one in there. Because you can do that. That's part of the ability you have with your mind. Now, is anyone having a hard time making a picture? Because there's usually somebody who has a hard time. Okay. Do you know what you want to think about in that picture? Okay, let me give you one. Let me give you one so that we can share the same experience. Do you both like sailing? Do you both like day at the beach? Do you both like, I don't know, use that one?
They both said yes.
Okay. Are we adults here? We're not gonna do anything X-rated. Okay. Is there a particular car you'd like to buy? Is there a man that you're in love with? Yeah?
Yes.
That's
Did you
just
say
several.
It's you, you know it's you.
Coming
You're
in
really
the
kinetic, Art.
Humor.
Okay. Is there a man that you're in love with? Is there a man you'd like to be in love with?
Kid, we gotta talk about
We gotta
fantasies.
talk about. Do you like ice cream?
Drop the suspender.
Do you like ice cream pizza?
How about a real estate deal?
Is there,
Yeah, closing.
okay.
That's the best.
How long has it been since you had a closing where you got both sides of the deal? Where you got the selling and the listing side?
2 weeks.
Okay, imagine that. In 2 weeks, yeah, like 2 weeks time. Where you wrote it, and it was your listing.
Oh, I haven't done anything.
You haven't? Well, imagine that. Imagine that. Now, what I want you to do is imagine yourself sitting across from these two couples at a conference table. Both the buyer and the seller. For some reason, you got them together. And they're both at the same table. Now, envision that picture, and they're both real happy. Buyer and seller are both real happy and excited. And it's going real well. The negotiations are going great. Buyer's paying more than it's worth, and the seller's happy as pie, right? Imagine that. And Vince is out there looking in the window saying, yes, yes.
Yes, bro.
Okay, now if you're having a hard time, pick a face from your past. Someone you met in a grocery store, someone you saw at a theater or something like that. Put those faces on those bodies if you're having a hard time. Now, if you're having a hard time with that, clothe them in your mind with the kind of clothes that a buyer and a seller would wear. But make sure that all of the details are filled in. Okay? But what would a buyer be wearing? He might be wearing a dress shirt, and his wife might be wearing what? She might be wearing a white blouse, right? She might. Okay? So on one side of the table, you've got a guy in a dress shirt, and his wife in a white blouse. On the other side of the table, the seller will be wearing something a little bit more flamboyant, because they've got all the money tied up in their house, right? So she's got a little bit more colorful outfit on. Let's use this one for instance. Put this blouse on that woman in your picture. Now, close your eyes. Does anybody have a hard time closing their eyes and seeing that blouse after while their eyes are closed? I love that blouse. It's a good thing I'm a guy, because I'd be wearing something like that.
You can these days.
Yeah, really.
I have
That's what,
Art wants to wear.
If your wife will let you out the house.
You want that?
Hey, Art,
Okay.
There's no
Now,
darts on it.
now, when your eyes are closed, can you put all of the colors in place? Anybody have a hard time putting the colors in place?
Fades out.
It fades out.
Yeah.
Turn up the brightness. It's like watching a TV. Just reach up while your eyes are closed and turn the dial just a little bit until the colors come back into view. You can do that. Anybody still having a problem with it? Okay. The easiest way to do that, if you have a hard time later on, is go ahead and, everybody open your eyes, there's somebody back there asleep. Okay. The easiest thing to do with that, with forming that picture in your mind, is if you have a hard time later on trying to figure out something, remember when you were in elementary school and all around the room, the teacher had these ones and twos and A, B, C, all through the alphabet in the special block letters that you were supposed to be able to print when you were in first grade or so. And then you got into third grade and they had these cursive letters all around. You can see that picture, can't you?
Well, I could see it, but not from my past, from my son's.
From your sons, okay, but it's there, right? You have that picture in your mind. So go ahead now, and if you have a problem with that, remember they were in black and white. But you can make them into color just by changing just like that in your mind. This is so much better than TV. You can change the color in your mind. Now, what does that have to do with habit modification? We're not there yet. Let's go with auditory. Remember the sounds that happened at that particular incident that you're experiencing? What was the buyer saying? What did the buyer's voice sound like? What did the spouse sound like? Was it high pitch? Was it nasal? Was it low pitch? Was it fast? Was it slow? Those are the kinds of things. And what's the verbiage that was used? And what did the seller do? Or in your case of recreation or whatever other picture you're putting in your mind, what were those sounds? If you were at the beach, could you hear the ocean? Now, if you were at the beach and you could hear the ocean, were there seagulls? Could you hear the seagulls? When I go through this routine in my mind, I can see the seagulls flying around, and I can hear them. How many of you have ever heard a seagull? How many of you have not ever heard a seagull? Okay, you can hear those, and you can hear the sound of the ocean. Can you hear the waves coming in, crashing down on the beach? Okay. The next thing you need to do now is, now that you've got the sounds of the emotion and the picture of the emotion, what were the other feelings that were not emotions? The other feelings are things like, if you're on the beach, remember you're laying on a towel, and the towel feels fine, but you got a little bit of sand on top of the towel. Remember that? Everybody's done that. Okay? So you can feel that, and so you sit up and you brush it off a little bit, but there's always still just a little bit left there, right? Okay. What about the sand? When you put your hands off the towel onto the sand, can you feel the sand? Is it warm or is it cold? It's usually warm, okay? And then what about the sea breeze? Is the sea breeze warm or cold?
Cool.
Kind of cool. But what about the sun coming down? Hot. And that makes it for the sea breeze, doesn't it? Okay, now what about the other senses that we haven't talked about? Can you smell the sea? You usually can smell the sea. You can't taste anything unless you're eating something while you're at the beach. Okay, those are the things that you want to do to conjure up those emotions. Now once you've conjured up your emotions, then what you need to do is change what you see in the picture if you want to change your habit. Change the earthquake.
No,
The worst.
it goes a different direction in an earthquake.
It does, it goes up that way. Okay, so if you want to change a habit, let's pick a habit. Somebody have a habit they want to change that they don't mind admitting in front of the group.
Eating too much.
Eating too much, okay? What happens when you eat too much?
Feel miserable.
You get fat? You gain weight? What did you say?
Feel miserable.
Feel miserable. You know, I quit eating beef a few years ago, and I'll tell you something. Did you know that beef takes at least 24 hours to get through your system? And so when I quit eating that, every once in a while